shamans as a group are not mentally ill. They're probably the most mentally healthy people in their community. And second, the practices of shamans are not something that only applied in the ancient past. They're something that we can learn from them today. Mm-hmm. And many of the principles of shamanism really laid the groundwork for the placebo effect, for hypnosis, for suggestion, for the use of art and fantasy in psychotherapy. So shamanism, thankfully, is still alive and well today, and maybe even more so thanks to people like Michael Harner and his wife Sandra Harner, who have re-shamanized different parts of the world that had lost their touch with shamanism, and who have preserved this wonderful shamanic legacy, which still has something to teach us. And again, there are a variety of meanings, but all of them are correct. Whatever the derivation, these ancient words applied to people who sang songs, people who were lifted up, and people who had special knowledge. Personal definition of shamanism, which contains three aspects. First of all, the shaman is a socially designated practitioner. In other words, it's the community who decides who is going to be a shaman. And if the community gets dissatisfied, they fire the shaman. Secondly, a practitioner who obtains knowledge in non-ordinary ways. Now, instead of using such words as spirit and out-of-the-body experience, which are buzzwords, no, in non-ordinary ways. This covers dreams, it covers journeying, it covers talks with spirits, with ancestors, power animals, power birds, all of that. And third, they use this knowledge for the service of their community. They use this knowledge for healing, both for physical ailments, psychological ailments, family disputes, tribal arguments, etc. And so a lot of people who call themselves shamans might be doing good work, but they don't qualify because there's no community that has given them the title, not even a virtual community. As far as I'm concerned, there can be an internet community, and that still counts. About half of the shamans who I have visited are female. This is often overlooked. People think of shamans as being male. No, not at all. I've been to South Korea twice. I've been to shamanic ceremonies twice in South Korea where it was the women who were shamans, dressed up in these elaborate gowns, colorful gowns, which sometimes they'd change in the middle of a performance. Very few male shamans in South Korea. The female shamans, very powerful, going strong. And in the National Museum, there's a special section on shamanism in Seoul, South Korea. So, in terms of commonalities, of course, the shamans are all healers. Not all healers are shamans, but shamans all are in some way or another healers. Some societies have specialists. Specialists, well, the kahunas in old Hawaii were specialists. There are half a dozen types of kahunas or shamans there. And some of them weren't even shamans. They were more what we call priests who officiated over religious ceremonies. And many shamans, well, among the Kuna Indians in Panama. I should mention, you talked about Russian shamans. Yes, I've met some remarkable Russian shamans, and the ones that I met were from Siberia, and one of them actually had business cards. And this is so important because under the old communist regime, seeing the shamans were not Marxists, they were killed on the spot. And their children hid the drums. And then later, when communism became a little more mellow and less rigid, the drums were dug up again, and now the grandchildren are shamanizing again.
I see.
There are, of course, differences depending upon the culture. And each culture has a different word for shaman. And there are different ways of accessing non-ordinary reality. Some of them, well, in English language, they all start with a D. There's drumming, there's dreams, there's dancing, there's drugs, and there's sensory deprivation. Some shamans refuse to take drugs because they say, no, we've got to have a clear mind, a clear analytical mind, and the drugs would confuse us. Mm-hmm. Other shamans say, oh no, peyote, mushrooms, ayahuasca, that's very necessary for us to get this knowledge from the spirits, knowledge from the other world.